Everybody, Wayne here from Dungeon Crate. I am in the Worlds of Wayncraft Studio, and I'm going to show you a little video on how I turned this foam into this type of landscape. Quick and easy, you can do it too. Let's take a look. So here's a look at the finished piece. Got all sorts of different textures. I tried to do some stuff, different techniques, but I started out with this pink foam. Just glued some together, different layers, wanted to get some striations, so took a little sandpaper, sanded it down, put some chunks on it, and I let it sit for a couple months actually. So now let's get back to it. I want to make something really cool out of this, so this is something you can do at home as well. So on top of chipping out some more stuff with, say, a fork, blade, or anything like that, I kind of went around and sanded down some things. I used everything from a knife like this to cut around and chip out some pieces, sanding block, so I can get some textures. And if you sand down the foam, it makes some really great marks on it to where it really shows some of the wear. I use a blowtorch too, just to get the different random looking melted spots. It looks great. It makes some great erosion. Be very careful when doing this because it is tricky and it can start on fire. I also use some spray glue and whatnot just to eat away at the foam. Anything you can use to eat away and give some natural erosion look to it. But the blowtorch seemed to work really good when you used carefully. And there we go. See, we got all sorts of great textures going on there. Now I've added a little bit of fish rocks here. And I've added a little bit of sand. You can get some craft sand, that kind of thing, just to start building up some texture, filling in things. I took some of this other foam I had, it's blue instead of pink, broke it up and got some extra little areas around there. So this is like a little piece of your own little personal oasis kind of. So you can kind of build this as if you're building the world. It's pretty cool. So get down all your just different parts, just kind of go around the piece and start looking where rocks would fall, where different types of rocks would be breaking off, creating ledges, that kind of thing. Now I used this really light spackle to fill in some of the grooves there to add a little bit of dirt texture as well. You can just use your finger, you can use a small knife to push it in there and fill in some of the gaps. Anything to kind of keep it from looking like foam. And now I have a ton of sawdust too here. So taking a little bit of EVA glue, which is your white glue, and spreading it on there. After gluing a bunch of stuff on, you can glue on some extra terrain elements. So some of the sawdust got put on there, some of the sand got put on there. More aquarium rocks, just adding it in there. So you just paint it on. You add a little bit of the glue with a little bit of water if you want. But the glue works great. I use some more contact cement really for the, or hot glue for the stones. Now I'm gonna prime it all black, check it out. Really starts to come to life once you give it a little wash of black. Now this is just thinned down a little bit, so just so that it will flow into the cracks without a lot of pressure on the brush. Once I did that, I really wanted to see how the texture turned out, so I made some brown and a little bit of brown and black, and started doing some dry brushing and really coloring it up a little bit more. Going from dark to light, that's the key. And you can always go back, add wash, you can always go back and add highlights and dry brushing as well. So it really is the fun part there when you get to dry brush and start to see all the textures. It starts to tell its own story as you're building it. It really comes to life when you do this. And this was all done randomly. You guys can do this pretty easy. I'm just doing this, I'm putting some different textures all together kind of to give you an overall example of different techniques you can use. And there you go, there's some dry brushing going on there. I like the dark here. I kind of want the rocks to be a little lighter as opposed to the ground. And now I'm starting to think about ground cover, what I'm going to paint the other rocks, when I'm going to start painting some of the foliage down there, adding in some grasses, things like that. But this gives you a really good look at some of the texture. It kind of gets you excited once you start, after you get it done priming and you're putting together the dry brushing and starting to see, starting to plan out where you can put stuff. We've got levels, we've got ledges you can put figures on. We've got some areas that you can tell stories about. Now I'm lighting it up a little bit here with some dry brushing. And I got that there. I tried to get the actual rocks that are coming out of this crag a little lighter. And the cool thing about doing this at this stage is that you can lighten, you can see all your texture. You can go back in then and start blending colors on top of it because you've lightened it up. You've lightened up the highlights. And if you want to change the color, now it's easier to do on a light color than on a dark color. But right now, it looks like I'm just going over, I want to get some more of these details here and see what falls into place. Sometimes it's hard to see when you just got it primed black. But this is the fun part because now you get to see the fruits of your labor. Easily just carefully dry brush around. And again, dry brushing is just adding some paint to your brush, wiping it down a little bit. Again, the puppy pads are fantastic for this. And adding a little highlights and really just bringing out all the cool textures in all this stuff that you made randomly while chipping and melting and sanding. Getting down deep in that little crevasse there. See what could be hiding down there, what kind of plants would grow, what kind of rocks would be down there, creatures, that kind of thing. So yeah, so I've added some more colors and kind of blended it through. Added a little green, a little lighter tans, a little bit of red and yellows mixed together. It really is so many different colors if you just keep them in the same warm tone. I added in then some of these, pieces here. Little grass pieces all around, and I think it turned out pretty cool. So that's it. You keep just doing some brushing, blending some colors. If it gets too dark or too light, you go back in with a wash and go around and just let it sit for a minute. And now when you're working with this, some of the terrain on here, you got to let it dry overnight. But when you come back, it's going to look great. So if you got any questions, hit me up. But here it is. Dun, 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 terrain. Well, there you go. I hope you like the build, and stay tuned for more. You can check me out over at the Worlds of Wingcraft fan site over there, and I'll be posting some of this on my Instagram, on Dungeon Crate's Instagram stories, as well as their Facebook stories, so go check it out. I'm going to try and make some more stuff on Terrain Tuesdays. Let's see what we come up with, and stay tuned also for Mini Mondays. Ooh, maybe I'll do some mini painting. I have a few. All right, thanks for joining me. Bye.